You have the religion of Islam, the religion of Christianity, and the religion of Judaism. Abraham plays a major role in Islam and Judaism. Why? Because for Islam, the line of Rasulullah is through whom? It's through Ismail, going back to Ibrahim. In Judaism, the line of the prophets goes back to Abraham through Isaac. They say that Prophet Ibrahim had his son Ishaq, who then had his son Yaqub. Yaqub's other name is Israel. And therefore his sons were called the children of Israel, Bani Israel. You find that the plight and the movements of Bani Israel are all mentioned within the Holy Quran. And many of the stories of the Holy Quran discuss what happened with the Jews and their message. For example, the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam is arguably the greatest story within the Holy Quran in terms of the number of references it's being given. Musa and how he grew up in the time of Pharaoh, how he was brought up in the court of Pharaoh. Musa, when he went from Pharaoh towards the Prophet Shu'aib in Midian. Musa, when he married the daughter of Prophet Shu'aib. Musa, when he came back from Midian to fight Pharaoh. Musa and the encounter with the magicians. Musa and the defeat of Pharaoh when the Red Sea was opened. Musa and the children of Israel. Musa and the commandments. All of these stories are mentioned within the Quran. You find, for example, the story of David and Goliath is mentioned within the Holy Quran, because arguably the two most important prophets of God in relation to Judaism are the Prophet Musa and the Prophet Dawood, because the Prophet Dawood is seen as being the king of the Jews, the king of the children of Israel, and his story with Goliath is mentioned in the Quran. You find at the same time the story of the Sabbath. Many Jews today will not work on the Sabbath, on the Saturday. You find that the story is mentioned clearly in the Quran, that the Jews were originally fishermen. They used to be people who used to, of course, make their trade through the buying and the selling of fish. They used to every Saturday sell in this particular area, and they used to work to bring the fish together. The narration states that the Prophet of God says to them that there has to be a day where you give towards God, a day where you give it towards God in terms of your worship. And the narration says that they said, okay, if you want to give a day, which day? And the reply was the Sabbath, or what we call in the Arabic language a Sebt, or Saturday. What they did, they would say, okay, we'd come towards the temple on the Saturday, but they'd always be thinking about the way they were making their money. And so what would happen is that near the river or near the shore, they would leave a particular device, because you know these fish would be used to the idea that on a Saturday there would be no fishermen. They've all gone to the temple. The Jews would go towards the temple, but they'd leave a device near that area where the fish would come, would get trapped, would be caught. They've left the temple and they come and find all the fish there for them. It's like us in Salat al-Jum'ah. In our ruku' we'll be thinking about a contract within an hour. It happens where you think that you're praying but your mind is somewhere else. Likewise with them on the Sabbath, they were told not to work, but what happened? They had a device which was catching all the fish. The Quran mentions the story. The Quran also mentions that the Jews used to do what? They used to worship Uzair as the son of God. Uzair, the person who asked Allah, how is it that you raise the dead and make them alive? The story is mentioned in the Quran. He went past the town which was dead. When he went past the town which was dead, he said, how does God raise the dead and make them alive? He was caused to die for 100 years. And then Allah brought him back to life again, where he was able to understand what? How Allah can resurrect you at any time. This Uzair, the Quran said, قالت اليهود عزير ibn Allah. The Jews said that Uzair is the son of God. In the same way there were Christians who said Jesus is the son of God. There was also a group of the Jews who believed in the son of God. That's another story. Another story of the Jews mentioned in the Quran is the story we referred to recently, which begins the backdrop of the discussion. Why? Because we narrated وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْمَوْعُودِ وَشَاهِدٍ وَمَشْهُودٍ قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ. Ashab al-Ukhdud, we said, were the Jews of Yemen. Yemen used to have a great Jewish majority. The population of the Jews was a great one in Yemen. These Jews used to be under the ruler Yusuf ibn Nu'as al-Himyari. He used to look after them. The Jews were given a prominent position. They were allowed to have every business and trade they wanted, until the Quran mentions they massacred thousands of Christians. There was a mission of vengeance against their massacre, against their Holocaust, by Titus, the Roman emperor. Titus heard about the way the Jews were treating the Christians in Yemen, and therefore he led a Roman movement in making the Jews leave Yemen. When the Jews left Yemen, where did they go? One opinion is they went towards Iraq. Another opinion is that they went towards Syria. A third opinion is that they went towards Medina. Some ask, why did they go towards Medina? One opinion is they just went to Medina because that was a safe place. A Jewish person will not go to a place because only it's safe. They'd go because in their books it was written down that the Messiah will emerge and build his state in Medina. And therefore, when they went towards Medina, at the time an oasis land, they went towards Medina in order to settle there, awaiting the Messiah. How many of their tribes went to settle there? 12 of their tribes went to settle there. 12 Jewish tribes went to settle in Medina. 3 of them were the most famous tribes, and their names have to be learnt. The first of them was Banu Qaynuqa'. That was the first Jewish tribe. Banu Qaynuqa'. The second of them was Banu Nadir. The third of them was Banu Qurayza, the people who are our discussion tonight. These Jewish tribes settled down in Medina. These 3 were the most prominent. What was their trade? Their main trade was that they were able to make ornaments. They were able to make weapons for war. And they were also loan sharks. They'd give you loans, and if you don't pay them back, they charge you interest on those loans. So whenever you seek to know where these acts originated, there's only one group of people. In Medina, they were the loan sharks. Anybody who wanted a loan, you're more than welcome. But if you don't pay me back, every day you don't pay me back, there's a price on what you owe me. And that this price would increase and increase. Before you know it, when it was the time of God, God had his time. When it was the time of making money, money had its time. That was their philosophy. And they established themselves at the helm in Medina. They established until the Aus and the Khazraj came together. The Aus and the Khazraj, originally Yemeni tribes, came together in Medina and now headed Medina. But the Jews were very influential. Why? Because the Jews were able to do what? They were able to convert many of the children of the Aus and the Khazraj towards Judaism. Many of the children came towards Judaism through the rabbis who were teaching them about their holy book. What happened was many of the people of Medina started to hear about the message of the Holy Prophet. When they heard about the message of the Holy Prophet, they heard that this Prophet of God has a revealed book which teaches the best of principles, and that he was being persecuted in Mecca. They went with a delegation one year telling the Holy Prophet, come towards Medina. There is a group of us who are ready to look after you. There is a group of us who are ready to defend you. The second year they went with another delegation. When they went, this time the Prophet said, we will be coming. And he had sent them an ambassador. Who did he send? He sent Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab ibn Umair went towards Medina. He managed to bring the Aus and the Khazraj tribes together. Then Rasulullah went in the Hijrah in the 13th year of his prophethood. At the age of 53, he went towards Medina. When he went towards Medina, the Jews became unhappy now that their authority was diminishing. Why?